Okay, let's.
What screams I'm terrible with money? Filling your giant swimming pool up, then being unable to pay the water bill, resulting in your water being shut off for months, forcing you to use the pool water for your water needs, as in flushing the toilet, cooking, drinking, etc., until the health debt catches wind of it and has your kids taken. Then you go around the neighborhood knocking on doors asking your neighbors for money to pay your water bill so you
I
can
totally
get your
forgot
kids
where to
back.
go.
They will come take your kids in this state if your
It's gonna
house
take
is
a minute for
without
me to
water for
figure it
X
out.
days because it's considered uninhabitable. Having Rent a Center come out with a giant TV and living room suite. Having Comcast come out the same day and turn on your cable, but not paying your electric bill, so 3 days later you're knocking on your neighbor's doors asking for money to pay your electric bill because it's been turned off. Then sneaking onto same neighbors' porches at night and plugging extension cords into their porch outlets. These were my old neighbors. Joining the military and then buying a brand new Mustang or Camaro as soon as you get out of basic training. I once knew a waitress who complained about never being able to afford anything.
Oh,
Then
here
bought a
already?
brand new car. OMG, I can't afford my college
He's
textbooks.
sad when this.
Then takes a cruise in Mexico the next week. My doctor visit is $30. OMG, I hate America. Then proceeds to buy $80 eyeshadow. I have a friend who was recently working a lower wage hourly job, car mechanic of some kind. He has a juvie record, never been had responsible for much in his life. He recently inherited about $30K and decided to buy a new truck, new gaming computer, and then packed up his stuff, his fiancée, and moved from Central Texas to Colorado in hopes of opening a marijuana dispensary. Within 3 weeks, he was broke and moved back to Central Texas, but had to borrow money the first week back to be able to eat. I mean, there was no thought as to how he was going to start up a business. He just knew he wanted to legally
Also,
sell
I
weed
never
in a
beat
state
this game,
oversaturated with
along with
illegal weed
Coliseum.
brokers.
I mean, I
He's
just
good at
beat.
playing video games though. My old roommate was terrible with money. She couldn't afford her car payment, so she went out and got a brand new car so she wouldn't have to make a payment for another month. I'm not kidding. No idea how she got approved for the loan. Had a friend do this. When I got a very small incremental raise, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "You should buy a new car." At the time,
I'm waiting to get a an actual like webcam
and I couldn't
once I get this
grasp why
job, so I can like
a new
actually show
car
my face.
payment would be a good option. Lots of nicely done tattoos, but complains about not having enough money for basic necessities. Friend and her fiance are saving to buy a place together. The friend works her ass off, is very frugal and saves up a lot. Meanwhile, the fiance bought a plot of land and a trailer to put on said land without telling her. She found out when she saw the massive withdrawal in their joint bank account. Finance streams asking you what they should buy because
Also,
they had a
welcome to the
little left
stream.
over from their
It's been a
paycheck.
while.
Save it. Fun money is fine. But if you don't even know what you want to waste money on, and it's just burning a hole in your pocket, just freaking save it. Crying to me that she can't pay her rent and skips meals so that her cats can eat. Next weekend charges 1K on cosplay items because it's an investment.
I've been well.
These are
I just
high
been like
quality
streaming
and will
Pokemon
last me
lately.
4 years.
I don't really like Smash
Also,
anymore.
she buys small bags of $20 designer coffee. Well, let's see. My ex-father-in-law was incredibly bad with money. He would constantly buy and trade in new cars over and over again. I'm talking 60K cars too. New trucks, Jeeps, a Corvette, everything. In a year he'd easily go through 4 new cars at minimum. But oh wait, it gets better. He took an early withdrawal out of his 401k, paying penalties and all, to buy a Corvette while they offered 0% financing. On top of that, I found out he was taking multiple home equity loans out. He bought his house in 2003 for 80k and now owes 165k. All of this while constantly spouting to everyone about how, if you work hard, you can
I believe
have
in you,
things
Blue. I
too.
believe in you.
Let's just say I'm happy to be out of that family.
Show
and
what your
not
Wii
with
Fit
my
can
ex
do.
anymore. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. A formerly $100k car.
But I'll be
while
throwing
it may
Master
have
Ball.
depreciated to now being cheaper than a new Camry, the maintenance and mechanical parts have not. S-Class Mercedes from 2002 aren't exactly known for their reliability. First date. I know that my profile says I wouldn't date someone in considerable debt, but I'm actually 8 grand in debt. What did you buy? Go to uni. Not just stuff. Never having money when you have a decent income. Ostentatious displays of alleged wealth flossing. People who don't have a lot of money
You should
are
main
too
Zelda.
embarrassed to assume they do often drive the
That's
cheapest
that's gonna
cars
be your
offered
off
by
main.
luxury auto brands and or festoon themselves in branded clothing and accessories that scream branding with huge and or repetitive logos. A good example is a Louis Vuitton or Coach bag vs an Hermes Birkin bag. The LV or Coach bag seems expensive to most people and has the brand logo plastered all over it. The Hermes bag is both legitimately and shockingly expensive. And even having the opportunity to buy one isn't a guarantee. Yet the Birkin really has no branding on it at all. If you're rich enough, you'll know what it is without having to have the brand screamed at you. Driving a Mercedes when you have a second chance checking account. Uses their bank balance.
Of course. Just hit me up when you want to
Well, they
play.
can afford
Probably won't be on
something.
stream though.
My bank account. Financing a puppy. If you're gonna buy a sofa for PS6, 000 only pay PS2, 000 and
Also,
get
the
the other
Discording actually
PS4,
works now.
000
But I think you're already in it.
on finance. That means you can get more stuff. It's what I did. Don't get me anything for my Christmas, because I'll not be able to get you anything. I'm so broke. I can't spare PS10 inches. This was the same person. I didn't spend PS6, 000 on a sofa like they did. Joining an MLM. Only $2,000 for my starter kit. Great. Making $300 plus as a bartender in a night. Goes on a all-inclusive vacation every couple months. Goes out drinking almost every night. Finished nursing school 1.5 years ago and still hasn't written her licensing exam. Complains that she's gonna be paying off student loans forever. Girl, you cold paid off those loans in a year with the money you're making. Not to mention you live at home. And all
Wait, your
major
beta is
expenses are
actually
paid
doing
for.
stuff. You should
It's
actually
weird,
like
really. It's almost like
stick with
people
her.
want to be stuck at
Your
the
beta.
bottom. I got my living room set at
I remember
Rent-A-Center.
fighting it. I didn't I lose to your
He
beta,
comes in
or I
to
almost
speak
lost.
to the teacher of one of 5 children, to tell her she's finding it hard to afford to feed her family, what with having to pay for 6 mobile phone contracts. My wife was the teacher, which is how I know about it. Talks about their 293,928 different loans. You know that one person who has lots of weed and alcohol, but can't pay rent? My sister. When our dad passed away in 2007, she received about 75k in 2 vehicles that still needed
That
to be
did way
paid
too much.
off. The
I hope.
payoff amounts for the 2
But then again,
vehicles,
it's right.
2004 and 2005 models, were 3k and 6k. Instead of doing what everyone else is thinking, she gives them back to the dealer, and then buys 2 different vehicles for about 60k. A new 40 and TV, large for that time, and new carpet installed that very same day for about 3k. She gave me 5k, and I made that last for 11 months. She blew through hers in about 5 weeks. Now, she is almost disabled. Had to move 3 times due to her
Look,
husband
Blue, do
refusing
not
to
pay
work,
attention
and
to
threatened to kick
GSP.
my ass when I called
Like
them out
that
on
is
2 very
bullshit.
autistic kids.
But your beta
Refused
actually,
government assistance
if
for
your
their
beta does
kids,
that good
and
on a
is
good
always
day,
broke.
then try making her
I know
that good
5
on a bad
people
day, you know?
that fit this exact description. Brand new Subaru WRX. Brand new iPhone X, or newest flagship phone every year. Hundreds of dollars each week spent on vape gear and juice. California minimum wage job, $11 an hour. Lives at home with parents, which may save them money in the long run, but doesn't do them any favors with their present spending habits. I have learned from others never to let them borrow money from you. They won't just never pay you back. They will get pussy and threaten you if you try and press the issue. Apparently their families are connected to Triad, which here in Irvine CA is an actual possibility.
Catching this gold
So
duck,
you have to
fuck.
actually be
Catching this
careful
gold duck is
if
gonna be
you
a
don't want
bitch.
strange things to happen.
I can already tell.
A $50k truck in front of a trailer park.
You know what? Actually, I think I'm just
Where
gonna
they eat out every day of the week and always grab a snack at the gas station anytime they
take
leave
his
their house.
soul.
Also, they have at least 5 different streaming subscriptions and buy a new video game every month. Like a newly released $60 video game. Looking at you, Jerry. The poor guy makes as much money as I do and has no student debt, yet he's always broke. I had a substitute teacher when I was in middle school who told us not to do what she did and sign up for like
That
10
ain't do
different
shit.
credit
Oh my
cards.
god.
Even as a kid, I thought that was excessive. Credit card debt. Buying a new TV or phone every year when the old one works just fine. Having kids when you're both already tight on money. You take money out of your 401k to buy random crap. I'm honestly not sure there's a worse financial decision one can make. Serious bargoing, like multiple times a week. My brother-in-law can't afford therapy for my 8-year-old nephew's neurological and learning
Okay, I'm switching
disorders,
him.
but he can buy a motorcycle to add
They're
to his
both
collection.
dying.
You constantly spend money on trips or new phones, but struggle to put food on the table. Bankrupting a casino and squandering millions of dollars of inheritance on horrible business ideas when you would have honestly been much better just sticking it in an index fund and leaving it alone. Making barely over minimum wage and has a $65+ K truck with a lease and an insane interest rate, but still claims it was a great deal. They don't have a plan to get rid of debt. This is an actual story of my friend, 26 meters, who talks to me 25m all the time to consult about finances. It's going to be a long story and going to get buried. He finished his bachelor's and then went to a private school to get his nursing degree and racked up a total of $80k in student loan debt and works at a hospital as an IQ nurse. $50k 52k/year. For a while he lived at home with his parents.
This
And
better
doesn't
not kill
pay
it.
rent.
You know what? I think this is
I
gonna kill
kept
it.
telling him
I'm not
perfect.
gonna
I'm
try.
guessing you make close to or slightly over $3,000/month. Just put $1,500 $2,000/month into your loans and you should be fine. You will still have $500 for entertainment and $500 for savings.
That
After
almost kills
about a
Save a
month we
lot.
were hanging out and he brought up his student loans and how he now has $79k in student loans and haven't even made a dent and now has $2,800 in credit card debt. I was bamboozled. So I asked him to let me check his finances and what he is spending on. $200 $550/month on concert tickets. $600 800/month
My
eating out. And
evasion
then
beat
spending
my
on average $300 traveling to different states
fucking
and
sure
connect
pull
with
one of
college
them.
friends. Traveled to New Zealand and a few other places. And somehow moved out of his parents' place and paying $450 for rent and $60 for utilities. Oh, and he is moving to Florida.
If this isn't cash, this
to
Golduck is a
accompany his
hoe.
friend who is finishing his film degree and got a new job in FL that pays the same as in Midwest as an IQ nurse.
Oh why?
$50
Oh why?
$52k. Since he is a good friend of mine, I reprimanded him on his irresponsibility. He kept saying he wants to be a travel nurse, visit places, meet people, and get new experiences. He talks about how nice it is to connect with people at concerts who have traveled places and exchange experiences. Quote, "It is so inspiring. I want to travel more." I literally ripped it into him and asked him about his future and where he sees himself. He kept talking about how he wants to buy a house and get married one day.
There's literally
Just
nothing
a
I could
bunch
do.
of
Actually,
unrealistic
yeah.
stuff considering his financial situation. I had to lay it on him, tell him that does he think his 580 credit score is good and how a low credit score can drown him in debt just from interest. I had to bring him back into reality, explaining to him that very few women would want to marry him knowing he is not financially secure and basically $83k in debt. I told him why was he stupid enough to move to Florida without a pay bump. Consider the significant increase in standard of living, double or more. At least ask for a relocation fee so he can use that to pay off the loans. It took a few months of daily advice and reality check for him to realize the crap situation he is in. He is still irresponsible with money. He spent
I need to go get some more
$150 a month on
Pokeballs
plane tickets
and like Ultra
just to
Balls.
visit his family for 2 days, and also $400 for a bachelor's party. He also bought a new car paying $300 a month on it with a 3.8 and number 37. April. Not the wisest but slightly better. Last I heard he is finally at $75k in student loans, $1,000 in credit card loans, and always paying over the recommend
Actually, I
amount.
think I'm
He
broke.
learned how to cook and
Like,
is
I can't
saving
afford
close to
Ultra Balls.
$500 slash
This is
month from
bad.
not eating
This is
out.
actually bad. I don't have
Stop
9.
going to too many concerts and saving close to $400 a month. But now his rent is $750 a month and $80 for utility
Yeah,
and standard of living. Buy food and stuff and eating
damn.
out cost double when he was still in the Midwest. He did express gratitude and regret that he didn't listen
I'm
to
gonna settle for
them
Great
and made
Balls.
these stupid decisions. But he has to bear the consequences. Kids, when you make money, don't always blow it all on the whole travel. To get new experiences think financially and logically for a second. Each time you pay off your loans, you are saving yourself hundreds in interest. Learn to cook and not go out to eat all the time. It is extremely expensive. $15 eating out can last you 3 days. If you know how to cook and want to cook, don't adapt to an expensive lifestyle. Experiences will always be there. Concert, traveling, etc. Countries won't just disappear overnight. Learn to save more money. Don't like my friend, because he will be paying off his student loans for probably the next 5-10 years, and the prospects of buying a house and marriage is definitely out of the picture. Somebody that works a lot but never has money because they spend it all. So not only do they never have time because of work, but when they do have time, they don't have any money. I see a lot of people posting things that I wouldn't categorize as terrible with money. So let's be a little more specific. Not good with money. Living at your means, that is. No monthly savings. Wasteful spending habits, for instance. Cigarettes and excessive eating out. Starbucks. Convenience store purchases. Etc. Bad with money. Leasing a car. Excessive fast food and junk food. It may be cheap in the short term, but the health consequences will cost you dearly in the long term. Buying luxury items, cars, clothes, vacations that are at or beyond your means. Terrible with money. Living above your means. Ongoing credit card debt. Rent a center. Payday loans. Not necessarily bad at all. Spending on items/hobbies that are within your means, that you get a great deal of enjoyment from, and are cheaper than alternatives. For instance, multiple streaming subscriptions instead of cable/going to the movies. Expensive tools/other hobby supplies. Expensive cars. Video game purchases. etc. Not necessarily a question of money but morality. Prioritizing other items above your kids. Excessive consumption and ostentatious luxury. You may be able to afford it, but it might be immoral when so many have so little. Good guy Warren Buffett drives a Cadillac, not a Bentley. Source: I'm a financial planner. Struggling to pay for bills. Priorities instead. 1. Last iPhone. 2. Overseas holidays. 3. Branded clothing/makeup/tattoo/shoes. 4. Expensive
Let's not
cars.
even try it.
A friend of my wife is on every public assistance out there. Food stamps, housing assistance and Medicaid. Yesterday she was complaining on Facebook about dropping her iPhone 8 while at the water park. Holy crap. My bill could fill up this whole page. Couple of bankruptcies. Multiple car boss. Always gets his vehicles from buy here pay here places. Meaning he's paying a ridiculous interest rate for crap cars. Almost went to jail for falling behind on his child support. About $8K. Was crying on his sister's shoulder, my wife, about how broke he is. Then went on tell her about the $400 worth of fireworks he just bought for when the kids come over. My wife just finally stopped worrying about him because she finally figured out that he's never going to ever get it, and his life is a wash rinse repeat cycle that he brings on himself. Throwing cash in the garbage. Pet stores. Petland and furry babies will finance for just $4,200 at 30% interest. That little Morky Skniddle is yours. People who cash their paychecks at the currency exchange. Thinking credit cards equals free money. They're in an MLM. Buying into an MLM. For me, it's those people that cry and cry about being poor, yet they eat fast food every day. When they go through over 5 credit cards to get to the one that hasn't been maximumed out yet. Rent to own places like Rent a Center or Aaron's. If you like spending $2,400 over 2 years for something that cost $300, be my guest. making well into six figures, but regularly having to borrow $200 from your children to make it to the next payday. Anyone you see using an ATM in a strip club, hookers and blow, and running your new car off a bridge with a trunk full of Ghost Dad DVDs that you went to every Walmart and bought until your trunk was full instead of paying your bills and you couldn't even afford periods for your sentences. A friend of mine was complaining about how this country has gone to crap, and he can't afford rent as a middle school history teacher in
God
one of
damn
the
it.
more affluent cities in the Bay Area. Turns out his car payment on his new truck was 1.2x his normal rent, and despite it getting 15 miles to the gallon, he frequently drove it 3 hours north to
I'm just gonna go on a
south.
whim and just throw
Then,
the Ultra
he
Ball.
starts dating a girl in a different state and drives to see her every other week. Still complains about rent though. Must be this godforsaken country. Buying inventory for your MLM business. Dude at work barely staying afloat when he was the sole provider of wife and kid. Wife gets a job. Dual income. Situation is even worse now. Always complaining about bills. Either him or family eats out multiple times a day. Dude just bought a brand new 50k truck the other week. The other day he said he doesn't know if he'll be able to keep up with bills. Buying a car when you don't have a driver's license. 11 grand in Steam purchases. Being so thrifty that it loops around and bites you in the butt. I'm talking let's just reuse the old oil filter and save $4.50. Why should I wash my car when it will rain soon? Leave the plug in the tub when you shower. I can use that to soak out stains. Oh, those. I wring out and dry the paper towels so I can reuse them. And my favorite. Who needs luggage? A trash bag will do for now. Usually it's the children of depression babies who pull this sort of
That's
thing.
broken.
But now and then I see kids stashing extra food to sneak home. Mending shoes that are past mending with duct tape or worse. Trying to rinse and reuse Ziploc bags. And that's when I know they've been in some want recently. Sometimes it's sad but understandable. Like the kid whose folks were doing okay before mom and dad both got laid off. The kid who's in foster care and cagey about lots of stuff. Or the kid whose addict parent has him back from foster care when they maybe shouldn't. But darned if that kid isn't going to keep up appearances for his parents' sake. But every now and then, it's something sweet. I noticed two boys who were going around collecting unopened packets of snacks and backpacking them as lunch wound down one day. Then, later, I saw them eating the snacks as they waited for their bus and stealthily selling them to other kids for pocket change.
That
So
was
I asked the
really
one about
inconvenient.
it,
I mean, that was really
and they
convenient.
explained they were that close to getting their little sister a birthday present. Their stepbrothers with a little sister in common, and their plan, as 6th graders, was to save up and get her a tablet with educational games on it. They had been mowing lawns, watching other kids, while the parents did chores, basketball tutoring, every kind of odd job and side hustle a kid could do. Officially, substitute teachers are never to give students money, ever, nor are they allowed to give students material items. An article on car detailing from a magazine is educational content, though, and a vacuum cleaner one was planning to set out on the curb anyway, at a specific time mentioned beforehand. Well, if the vacuum doesn't get picked up by the trash guys, who's to know? And if a certain elderly neighbor or two have the brother's business recommended to them purely in the course of ordinary conversation, well, there's no specific prohibition on substitute teachers vouching for the responsibility of students they trust. None. I checked. And after they got their sister the pink Purple Fire Kids edition, they detailed cars at the school's charity car wash benefit and made almost $400 for the local food pantry all by themselves. They have a logo and business cards. Their folks let them detail and wash cars 3 days a week after school once their homework's done, and they paid their own athletic fees this past year. I saw the coach organizing the stacks of crumply bills and solemnly writing them each a receipt. The one kept it in
I
the clear
chose
pocket of his
Earthquake.
binder, like he was that proud of his
Yeah,
business.
kind of
And no
overkill.
matter what class I'm teaching, they always stop and see me. I filled in for their little sister's teacher once, and she stood up for another kid who was being picked on, telling them her big brothers would fix them if they didn't leave their friend alone. Substitute teachers are not allowed to have favorite students, but favorite families are not mentioned any place. I checked. I told my friend I was getting a credit card to just build credit and use it for things like gas and such. They proceeded to warn me to be careful because it's very easy to maximum out credit cards fast. Not a great example, but that always struck a chord with me, since I can't ever imagine coming even close to maximuming a credit card out unless necessary for my state of living / well-being. This was not the case for them, as they still lived at home and worked. I will never understand willingly putting yourself in any sort of debt for frivolous things. When people get into those 3-year phone plan contracts, bonus points if they are already short on money. This makes me feel judgmental, but I think this every time I see someone buying junk food with it. I mean, at that point everyone else in the country is helping to put food on your table. Can you not buy an entire cart full of name brand soda? New Chrysler. Gambling to try and earn money. I used to be a resident manager in an apartment complex, collecting rents and reporting stuff being broken etc. This guy was always paying his rent in changes. $800 rent coming in like a few dollar one day, a few dollar the next. One time I received $1.37, yeah, in coins, toward his rent. Always a sob story. I mean, I sympathize. I could understand it's tough. Right. It's no problem. I just keep records and balance. Come the 4th of July I saw him with a huge box of fireworks, walking out into the streets to play. Sure, I applauded him for spending time with his kids and making them happy, but priorities. Lottery tickets. When I was 16 years old, my uncle, dad's brother, who was dying from cancer, gave me his car. My dad then proceeded to sell the car behind my back for $3,000. I only had a permit at the time and wasn't driving that much, and my dad said it'd be stupid for them to make monthly payments on a car I'd barely use. I actually agree with his reasoning, but I still don't like that he didn't tell me first before he sold it. But
I am so
my
surprised
parents agreed to
Celio
use the
is faster than Ursaring.
$3,000 to pay that year's taxes because my dad spent almost all of his money on new phones / computers / etc. I was alright with that because I was only 16 and didn't need $3,000 for anything at the time. My dad was supposed to pay me back over time, except he never did. He continued to buy more gadgets for himself and didn't make an attempt to set aside anything for me. Now I'm 25, still living with my parents, and I started paying rent about a year ago, but my mom decided she would delay making me pay for a while to make up for the $3,000 my dad never gave me back. I'd be paying $200 a month otherwise, which is still rather cheap, so this gave me 15 more months to freeload off them. I'm ultimately satisfied with the deal, but bitter that my dad couldn't be bothered to do the decent thing and pay back his own son. Some other examples of how crappy my dad is. My parents paid $10,000 towards my sister's wedding, except I should really say parent, because my dad couldn't be bothered to set aside money to contribute toward that amount. It pretty much all came out of my mom's pocket. Also, my mom found him looking at
Oh
a
my god, I'm
lotus
tired.
suitor
That's my
online.
biggest pet
He
peeve is
already
Pokemon
had
flinching.
one and told him not to buy it, but he went and got it anyway. I confronted my mom on how she always ends up letting him get away with wasting his money, and she said, well, what can I do? Divorce him is the obvious answer, but she still stays with him for I don't know what reason. And yes, he's always done this. It isn't something he just started doing suddenly. Grease. Rent a center. Telling people they're idiots for spending a few bucks on lottery tickets, while believing that giving 10% of your income to a church will result in you getting it back tenfold. Playing the spiritual lottery. MLMs. When their car is worth more than their house. Priorities of idiots. I play Magic, the Gathering.
I could have
A
sworn
sad
Seeking was a
banker
shadow
who doesn't
Pokemon.
want any customers to talk to him. What did your annoying neighbor do? We had a party for all the neighbors when we moved in. I like to barbecue, and my wife is vegetarian, so we have 2 barbecues. We invited everyone in the street. They declined because we are vegetarian. Not to worry, I said. So's men offered it. In what ways have you experienced sexism? At my sister's house with my then 14-year-old son. He's a good-looking, tall, handsome young man. Bunch of my sister's 40-something female friends start on about how hot he is whistling and making comments. He was visibly uncomfortable, so I asked them to stop and got all kinds of crap. I said, can you imagine the heck that would come down if a room full of 40-year-old men were going on about a 14-year-old girl? Disgusting behavior. Not me, but my dad had an extremely hard time getting full custody of me and my little sister despite my mom having no place to live, no job, addicted to drugs, and abused us. All because kids need a mom. A former female co-worker would oftentimes sit around talking about guys she had fricked and once showed me a dong pic that some guy sent her. She thought it was funny. I went to my supervisor and told her it made me uncomfortable and it felt really inappropriate. She basically told me to just ignore her. A couple months later I was fired because that same co-worker accused me of some sort of harassment. I did absolutely nothing to her and they wouldn't tell me what she said I had done. This is why you have to document everything in these situations. Both the behaviors and the reports. The latter should always be done in writing rather than verbally. My girlfriend, at the time, repeatedly hit me, scratched me, ripped my shirt, and ripped the rear view mirror off my car while I was driving. I drove her to her mother's while this was happening. When we got there, she refused to get out. Me and her younger sister, who came out after we got there, both had to physically pull her out of the car. She kept trying to get back in. I finally got her out and locked the doors and drove away. When I got on the highway, 3 cop cars were waiting for me. They charged me with assault, despite the fact that I was visibly battered with red marks, scratches and a ripped shirt, and the inside of my car was trashed. Their justification: her face was red. Yeah, her face was red. She was having a mental breakdown and crying non-stop because I told her I was leaving her. $700 lost because they towed my car. I was also in the middle of applying for our CMP training at this time. Had nearly aced the aptitude test, but couldn't continue because of the
This is probably the
pending
worst pair I've
charge.
ever
I
put.
also missed out on another job that I knew I was going to get when the criminal record check came back with the dismissed assault charge. Being assaulted and laughed at. Time to tell my story. I'm 6 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds and used to work as a bouncer. I tried my best not to be aggressive or anything because I know sometimes alcohol leads people into making stupid decisions. So I'd always approach everyone in a very polite, non-threatening way. Usually that worked because it used to de-escalate things and all. One night, this group of girls was starting to create trouble at the club I used to work. When I came to know what was going on and possibly calm things down like I'd always do, one small intoxicated girl jumped me. She was insane, screaming, cussing, being loud and racist. I'm Latino. She was white. I tried to calm her down, but since that wasn't working, I told
Oh,
her
come the
I was
fuck
gonna
on.
escort her out. I reached for my radio and called for backup. She was with a big group, 7-10 girls. Out of nowhere, she started to berate me, trying to scratch my eyes, slashing my neck in the process, trying to kick me in the groin and
That's what you
crap.
get.
Other bouncers came and took her off of me. Manager
Ain't this
finally
damn
showed up.
Corvus.
Police was called. When they arrived and collected
Fucking
statements,
Ampharos is
I
almost
came over
dead.
to them saying I wanted to press changes due to the fact I was bleeding profusely in the neck and hands. They laughed at me, said they won't waste their time. Nothing will come out of it. The girls were let go by the police and went their way laughing at me. I went over to my manager, complaining he was supposed to help us or something. His response: man up, clean myself up and get back to work. I did clean myself up, patched my injuries and quit on the spot. Frick him. And frick those cops as well. The fact that they even knew they weren't going to get repercussions is even worse. This system is broken. It doesn't affect me because I'm an adult, but in Ireland if 2 underage teenagers hook up only the male is criminally liable. The Supreme Court found that this was acceptable because women are at risk of getting pregnant as a result of underage intercourse, so they shouldn't be liable. It's genuinely the dumbest freaking ruling I've ever read. It doesn't even begin to make sense. It's the worst example of judges inventing a rule to suit their outlook. Odd one. I don't think it is considered sexism, but my male principal has made it very clear that he dislikes only the men at my school. So myself, along with the other 4 or 5 male teachers out of about 32 staff members get awful evaluation scores and he bullcraps his reasoning why. We think he just wants to pretend to be top dog. Makes it even sadder when even the female staff say things like I can do whatever I want since he likes me. That is literally the definition of sexism. Slight sexism usually gives me a good chuckle. People can't accept the fact that I'm the primary caregiver for our son. Examples. At his pediatrician's office for a checkup. You probably have to ask your wife, but do you know
It's
if he can jump
so
stack 4
unfortunate.
blocks etc. They will also never call me to confirm appointments or for follow-up calls. They always call my wife's number and leave a voicemail despite us asking several times to contact me first. When out and about with my son. Out with dad today, have that fun. Good luck dad. Cool mom cliques can also be a problem. Not usually overly welcoming, but the worst is passively throwing shade toward my wife. Your wife makes you stay home, huh? Or, your wife decided she would rather work than stay home? On behalf of my dad, who doesn't have Reddit, being a male primary school teacher is a challenge. I have to be more careful about doing things like hugging kids, being alone with them, or even putting up decorations in my room that could obstruct the windows. If I was a female teacher, I wouldn't have to watch my every move in the same way. Honestly, there's really no incentive if you're a man and want to become a teacher at the elementary, junior, or high school level. Too much red tape to begin with, plus all the added crap you'd have to deal with being a male teacher. No thanks. Was refused domestic violence leave by my employer. I'm a really big guy, 6 feet 6, 270 lbs, with a scruffy beard. I work from home and generally have handled a lot of the kid time with our 2 kids. I have had the cops called on me twice, 2 separate incidents, at the playground while playing with my kids. Once because my 2-year-old son did not want to go home and take a nap, so I had to carry a tantruming toddler to the car and someone thought I was kidnapping him even though he was clearly yelling no daddy, no, and having a tantrum. And another time because while playing with my kids on the cool giant playground in the park, I noticed that a little kid, like 18-24 months old, was about to fall off of the top of an 8 feet tall platform, and I ran over and caught the kid, but managed to bang the kid's arm on the side of the structure during the catch, and the kid's mother ran up from her perch on a bench 50 yards away screaming about how I assaulted her son. I also do all the grocery shopping and cooking for my family and used to take my kids to the store with me every week. As such, I've had countless women from teenagers up to old ladies mention how nice it is that I'm babysitting and giving mommy a break. That's kind of infuriating, but whatever. Despite having my kids with me, I've been accused of being a
Well, I
pedophile
feel like the
or kidnapper
Pokemon
at
in
least
this
3
game is
times
like
for trying to help a lost
2 times
kid find
easier
their
to catch
parents
than
because people think I
Coliseum.
just want to frick any child, not my own. Being a guy around kids is really fricked sometimes, man. Years ago I was hired at a Denny's to wait tables. I did my week of training, including working a busy shift with my trainer just watching from across the room and keeping the
Her hair reminds me
$100
of
in tips I
fucking
made.
Princess Bubblegum.
Before training could be finished I had to pass a written test. I took the test, got 80% of the answers right, and was told I had to pass with a 90 or above, but I was told by the female, also gay, manager now that I had failed once I had to pass with 100%. I was told by 3 female servers that they were told they passed the test with lower scores than I had, and one never even had to take it. Everyone who worked there said the GM hated men and that's why she did that. Sorry you experienced that, buddy. I'm shaking my head over someone having a power trip at Denny's. I didn't get a job at a company because the woman who was training me, and I quote, doesn't really like men and refuses to train one. I had signed the contract already and they ripped it up. She was the only one who knew how to do the job, so they had to give her what she wanted. This sounds like a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen. I had a female manager falsely accuse me of assault and I had no way to defend myself. It was my word against hers. She changed her story 3 times. I proved innocence the first 2 times with emails and people who could overhear the conversation and vouch for me. And the 3rd time it was something totally new. I touched her and physically intimidated her. That I couldn't disprove because she called for a closed door meeting with me and her. She did it because she had not done any work in 6 months and needed to deflect responsibility for this. But this, along with a few other things, gave me a lot of anxiety and depression. I cried recalling this experience to my mother and she told me I was just afraid of strong women. I made a terrible mistake. I was a
Oh
contributor to Google
boy.
Maps for a few years before having kids, and it's something I really enjoyed. After having kids, I spent 90% of my free time with them and noticed that there weren't any good images of parks when I was looking for one age appropriate for a 2-year-old. Unwittingly, I think cavernous discretion, what a great opportunity to get some views and maybe earn those socks I keep hearing about. I grab a few wide shots of the entire area and a photo sphere in the middle of the few islands of playground, and they came out great. They were just what I was looking for to help it parks for various age ranges. Naturally, that concept collapsed as soon as the police arrived. Meanwhile, there is some lady there with a telescopic lens taking all the pictures she wants, shaking her head disapprovingly while I try to explain that I'm here with my son. Hobby lost. Parental embarrassment. Poor first exposure to the police for my kid. From a parent's point of view, I understand the optics. But if you really don't want me to have a picture of an entire playground structure that happens to have your kid in it, come talk to me. I'm not a terribly intimidating guy, and I'd gladly delete it if you just talk to me. Calling the cops was a bit much considering how many cameras, smartphones there. The shocking part to me isn't that there's a dumb busybody who called the cops, it's that the cops actually showed up. I guess it's an easy way to avoid working for 30 minutes. The cops in my city won't even show up when the homeless light campfires on the sidewalk next to their tents downtown. When I was abused publicly in a mall by my girlfriend, now ex, no one did anything. I bet if it was the other way around, people would have thrown themselves on me. I have very little access to my kid, even though their mother is a drug addict and uses them as a weapon in
I ain't do
arguments. I
shit.
have shown proof of this many times about
Tinko
how
bulky.
unstable she is, but since she is the mother, she has God-given rights to them. Very sad. I'm a CNA in school to be an RN. The amount of times I get asked to move other people's heavy patients for them is astonishing, and God forbid I say no. I already have bad back pain at age 22. The yard work is a man's job, but the inside work is also my job because expecting a woman to do it is sexist. Just do all the chores. This is exactly the boat I'm in. I do mowing, tree trimming, trash, house projects, cat's litter boxes, etc, all of the back-breaking work that's considered a man's job. When I'm done, all of that counted for nothing, because then I end up having to do all of the cooking, cleaning too. I got kicked out of an underground bar because I was the only man, and they felt it was much better if there wasn't a man present in the bar. Did you come on a ladies' night or some bruh? A teacher told me that she would have given me an A grade for the year if I wasn't male, as she only awarded A grades to girls as they had fewer academic advantages. I think she may have had a few issues. If that were to get out, she would be fired. At least I hope so. The Department for Gender Equality at my job only accepts women to run the department. Ironic. I was at a summer camp with a bunch of other guys. The girls and the guys were in the same dorm, but both sides were closed off by a door that needed a keycard to enter to the other side. The boys were blamed for stealing an iPhone charger, which is literally not possible. On the girls' side, a guy got his mattress put on a wall, like off the frame and put up on the wall, and he was upset about it. We got held back from going to our designated sports time, of course only the guys not the girls, and all for nothing because it was the custodians cleaning after suspensions of bed bugs. Finally, me and 4 other guys were brought into a room and accused of assaulting or harassing girls. I know for fact I did not harass or assault anyone. The camp was a horrible 3-week experience. I work for a company that provides services for people with disabilities. Clients, or their parents, are able to fill in any age or gender preferences they have for providers, and if those preferences are hard or flexible. Age preferences are usually flexible.
That's a
But a good
wholesome
3 of
text.
4 of our clients have a hard preference for female providers only. At one point a few months after I started, I finally had a steady full-time schedule, which takes time to build up. I worked with 5 clients. 3 were female. The field manager at the time, for whatever reason, called me one day and said he was pulling me off of all female clients because he was no longer going to have male providers working with female clients across the board. No explanation beyond that, but insisted I had done nothing wrong. It was just a change he was making for everyone. This would have effectively cut me down to about 12 hours a week from 40 while trying to rebuild my schedule. Also, he didn't have 3 new male clients for me available the same hours. but he'd work on it, he said. One of my female clients who heard the news said she was just going to drop the company completely if she had to have a different caregiver and called to yell at the manager. This was good since she was high needs and made up about half my weekly hours. Another one of my female clients worked with a few female providers, kept requesting new ones, and ended up one of my regular clients again within a few months. I ended up outranking that manager anyway by the end of my time with the company, so that worked out well. When I was looking for a job, my friend suggested applying at their store as they were hiring. I went in with my resume and introduced myself to the manager. The next day at school, my friend tells me that her manager is a sexist bee. Turns out she found my resume in the bin. When she questioned her manager about it, she told her that they don't hire boys, they distract customers. She found a new job and quit that one out of anger on my behalf. When a new ice cream place was opening in town, I thought I would email my resume. Like the advertisement said, they had no physical location at this point. I never heard anything. No harm done, I was just looking for
That
a
Mischievous is
second job to fill
stupid.
time. When it opened, I noticed something strange. All of the employees are young girls, like just eligible to get a job, young 15-16 years. I personally wouldn't call this sexist, but at my first job I was the first boy to work there. None of the clients bothered to learn my name and just referred to me as the boy. At my second job, my manager also referred to the boy. The boy did do that. Don't worry, I've got a boy to deal with that. My husband's hair has blocked him from promotions because of its length. Women can have any hairstyle they want. Short, long, whatever. My husband has been told more than once he either will not be hired or promoted if he does not cut his hair first. He has had long hair his whole life. That's sexism, emo. Before I went bald, genetics not choice, I was threatened with the sack and being refused jobs because I had shoulder length hair. Yet women had full hair to their waist doing the very same job, and some jobs weren't even customer facing. I had a supervisor who would be a dong to all the guys on our team under the excuse of be a man. Meanwhile, he gave so much slack to the girls on the team to where they almost never had to do much. He needs sacking if you ask me. Still haven't seen a changing table in a public restroom for when I have my kids with me, except for Walmart maybe. If you live in the eastern United States, the grocery store Wegmans stocks their men's rooms with a changing table and a bunch of free baby supplies, diapers, wipes, etc. in case you forgot to bring some. I friggin' love Wegmans. We had a teacher back in high school that was absolutely sexist against men. Even the girls saw it. It was so obvious. Your marks would reflect her biases, that's for sure. She'd treat men like trash and her classes always sucked for us because of it. I had one of these too in high school, but my teacher was a guy. Cut to 10ish years later and he's arrested after touching a student on a field trip. Worked in a school district and for two different companies that provide behavior therapy for kids with autism. There's a shocking amount of sexism towards men in that line of field, so I have several offhand
I wonder if I
comments,
use
jokes
fight.
about how men are blind to the emotions of others. I tend to play it off as joking, pretend to GT all offended, and we
God
usually have
damn.
a laugh. But it seems like that crap happens like once a month now. An old company policy stated that men weren't allowed to change a kid's diaper and had to get a female manager co-worker to do it for them. WTF. Do you think all men diddle kids in the bathroom? YTF would you even hire men if you assume that? I remember a co-worker was a dad with two infant kids, who changed diapers several times a day, not being allowed to change a kid's diaper at work. Myself and a bunch of co-workers thought that was some BS. So we filed a complaint and eventually the policy was changed. Me, the only male in a group of 4 other female teachers aides, were talking about hair and how thin, dry hair is hard to work with. I agreed with them. I have thin, dry hair, and they asked if I had sisters. I said yeah. Why? And one said, oh, that's why. You learned about hair from them. Then they all laughed and changed topics. I didn't say this, but no, Lisa, maybe it's because I have thin, dry hair, you old hag. I complained to my boss about a co-worker who was female and bullying me in various ways. We were professional coaches for a professional team of youth athletes. She had much less experience than me, 15 years compared to 2 years, and she felt that she should have the lead position instead of me. I sensed this and began to cover myself from behind. Went to HR and reported all of the bad stuff she says. had witnesses. Even youth athletes came forward about her behavior, direct rule infringement stuff, like hanging with kids after practice alone, the kind of crap I would be in jail for. I continued to make my boss's boss aware, but later I was fired and found out from a co-worker my boss was not telling his boss cause he knew I would just get fired right away since she and my boss's boss are close friends. I was eventually let go for telling a kid they can't smoke weed in the gym's parking lot and come to practice. The parent didn't like me calling their kid out in front of her friends and complained to my boss's boss, and he let me go. I recently got an email from HR though that the league or organization that runs the competitions banned my co-worker from coaching. Not the gym I worked for, but a national organization, considering suing the crap out of them. I've been attacked, arped and abused by several women in the past. They often feel entitled to me sexually, and it's at a point where some of them even invite themselves into my home under the premise of being drunk with nowhere to go and practically refuse to leave. My complaints fall on deaf ears, and the expectation is that I've got it good, that these people want me. People seem to neglect the fact that they're freaking terrible to me. Was isolated from a friend group for months when I finally cracked and blocked the one girl, and it's left me afraid that if I do that to any of the others I'll end up entirely alone. I remember back in high school I rejected a girl because I liked her friend better. She straight up slapped me across the face in school one day in front of a teacher, and the teacher did nothing. Girl I shared one class with my freshman year of high school made up a story that I arped her over the summer a week or two into sophomore year. I was called into office, almost arrested, got my mom, who worked in a law firm at the time, and she brought a couple lawyer friends with her. While waiting I said multiple times I didn't even know the girl, let alone attend any party over the summer. Eventually went to court and showed that it would be impossible as I didn't know about said party.
Or that
Didn't
defense
know the
lowered.
girl,
Still
didn't
kills.
have a car, didn't have
I
a
mean
license of
attacks.
any kind, and had printed out my entire internet history for the night it allegedly happened. Female judge ruled me innocent, as there was no way I could have done it. Girl then breaks down in court that she did this as a way to get revenge on one of my cousins because my cousin kept getting positions or parts she wanted. Oh man, where to begin? Repeatedly assaulted at work by multiple women. HR. Female, when I told her said she's cute, you really want to make an issue of it? Constantly assaulted in the bar with women grabbing my chest but groin. When you tell people they just shrug. Being stopped and questioned by police security a number of times when my daughter was 1-9 years old. Learned to keep a lot of it on me when we went out. Had a woman physically separate me and my daughter, 6 at the time, when I took her to the playground screaming that I was a predator. Took a mother that I knew to tell the woman off just before I had to decide whether or not to physically take my daughter back. I would never let someone separate my daughter from me. There are very few things that will make me go ballistic and assault someone, but taking my child buys you a major butt whipping. Literally got kicked out of the gender equality club at my school for being a white male because of course that means I have much better chances in life than anyone else and can't advocate complete gender equality. I feel like this probably saved you in the long run. When I opened up and told someone I was depressed, they said man up. Well, my depressed female friend also opened up, but that person actually talked to her about it. This may be the worst of men being men. Man says I need help, friend says man up. That's not right, and we have to hold each other accountable. Sorry you didn't have someone there to support you. I took a children's lit class. I was literally the only boy, and the try-hard grad student really made sure to make an example out of me like every chance she got. On my kid's daycare, my kid on daycare came up with a fever and he was throwing up. They called my wife, but I was closer and was able to leave everything and go. When I'm on the front desk to pick up my sick kid, they put up a fight. This is a mommy situation and we would feel better if she picks him up. I literally yelled to the nurse to give me my kid. I think I got a bad reputation for that. I work in childcare. I've worked in multiple daycares and preschools. Lots of parents that I meet are really apprehensive of me because why would they want a male taking care of their kid? Some of the kids I meet are even scared of me at first. And mind you, I'm not a threatening looking person. I'm 5 feet 8, 130 pounds soaking wet with blonde hair and blue eyes. But some kids, usually girls, still cry when they see me because they're so used to having women take care of them and I'm different from them. After parents get to know me and they see I can change diapers, feed snacks, clean up, and engage a room of 15 plus 2-year-olds better than the majority of my co-workers, they warm up to me. But those first few meetings can be a little awkward, and it's only going to get worse as I get older and I'm no longer young and attractive. Worked at a well-known car rental place. The manager had all the guys washing the cars, doing the pickups, and the grunt work while the females did whatever they wanted. Problem was everything was scored and determined your ability to get promotions. After a couple of brutal weeks I brought this up to him when I was getting reprimanded for my bad scores and his reply was they are dressed nicer so they shouldn't have to wash cars and I should take advantage of every at-bat. I transferred to another manager's shop the next month. Can't volunteer for anything regarding children. I did that when I was younger but as I was getting older I noticed people giving me dirty looks and parents complaining. Ultimately, I just stopped volunteering with anything regarding children, it's not worth the headache. Recently volunteered to go on my 2nd grade daughter's field trip as a chaperone. Had to fill out paperwork for a complete background check. Mentioned it to one of the moms going and she said she didn't have to get a background check. Turns out none of the 6 women were required to get a background but me and one other dad had to get one. SMH total BS. Men of Reddit, what myth about men is 100% untrue and infuriates you when you hear it? I hate when I hear from someone when I have my kids and my wife is working that I'm babysitting. It drives me insane. I don't babysit. I'm raising my kids. I'm not a volunteer or a hired hand. Ugh. I'll never understand the very common belief that men can't or refuse to care for children. That we only tell women our feelings to coerce them into bed. Like, wow, how new and amazing this relationship is. I am so glad I found you. That is uncomfortable vulnerability, not some sort of plot. To coerce them into or that sex is something men take from women. That it is something women hold and give out to men. Instead of thinking of sex as something enjoyable that both partners want to do together. It is this weird game. Looks like it's more culture specific, being with the father figure by mother grandma. Like if you messed up or misbehave, if your dad finds out you'll be in trouble. Worst case is when dad is told the story in a way that he gets angry and fulfills those threats. It wasn't only in my case. Most of the guys I've been talking with had the same case.
I know it's really late to
WTF. This whole
purify,
be a man shtick that
but
leads guys to internalize their problems and marinate in their own issues and neglect their mental health drives me nuts. It took me a long time to find female friends just so I'd feel comfortable talking about my depression and get advice on how to get the help I need. If I did not, I would without a doubt be dead right now. I stamp this thinking out wherever I can find it. It was almost the death of me. One of my co-workers struggles with this line of thinking. We started telling him to be a bro. Bros get crap done but they also sit down with you and talk cause bros take care of brothers. And bros ask for help cause no bro wants his bro getting hurt. Turned the whole shift into a gender neutral bromance and it's been pretty fun so far. So from a lady bro to my bro here. Hope you're doing better. Men can't multitask. Every time I hear that I have to stop what I am doing so I can get angry. Edit. Thank you to all who upvoted and thank you even more to the kind souls who thought this worthy of the gold and silver. Mayo, but actually no one's really a good multitasker. We all just think we are. Mythbusters tested it, I think. Edit. Thank you. Now this is my best post, with I'm the best you come to in second. My wife is going to earn 1.5 to 2x as much as me when she's done with her study. So I'm gonna work for 2-3 days and take care of the kids when she's done. People act like I'm a traitor to the whole male race and that I'm crazy of being a half stay-at-home dad. Maybe I like to stay at home to spend time with my kids. Erections mean we want sex. Even as adults, they can still be random. Not even random. Studies have been done and even when a man is absolutely terrified, stimulation on the penis can cause an erection. Men think about sex every X amount of seconds. I'm a grown man with a life. I have more to think about than just sex. Dude,
how did
my health
he
teacher back in freshman
type
year
all
of high
that
school said something
in
like men
2.5
think about
seconds?
sex 8+ minutes out of every hour. I don't know what crock of crap survey she read, but I doubt we spend that much time. That if we like children but don't have children of our own, we're automatically given at the very least a little grilling, if not straight out asked if we're a pedophile. I like dogs too, for pretty similar reasons. Nobody ever asks me if I'm a dog sucker. Me having big feet only means that I wear big shoes. And seriously, what makes girls think they can just come up to you and ask about it? If he's got big feet, ears, nose etc., he better be packing, cuz that's one funny looking dude. Badly paraphrased Jeff Foxworthy. If those three were true, feet, nose, ears, I'd be hung like a horse. Unfortunately, I'm not. ETA, great, one of my most upvoted comments, Lasai. There are plenty of fish in the sea, just get over it. Frick you, I like that fish, even if it was kinda mean and cruel. Frick you, I like that fish, I need this on a t-shirt. If you expose us to radiation we gain superpowers. In reality this has only happened a few times and most men would just die. So you're saying there's a chance men can't be abused by women? It's getting better now, but back in the day basically every guy on TV was a sports obsessed, car motorcycle loving, beer swilling moron who couldn't function without his wife to look after him and the kids. My wife went away last week for work and I'll have you know that only half my kids got eaten by wolves. You did your best, man. Wolves always hunt in packs, so you were probably outnumbered. I probably don't want to frick you. It's usually a decision figuring out if I actually want to sleep with you even if I'm already interested. Although promoting ourselves as Captain Horndog makes us look cool to other guys, so a lot of dudes do that, or they are desperate. I can't think a woman's attractive without wanting to frick them. That's always been true, even as a teenager. That we're all not interested in or incapable of being involved in the planning of our weddings. I cannot tell you how many comments like "remember, it's a day, not yours" I received.
These fucking jump scares, I'm sick of them.
I'm not going to lie to you and say I'd been looking forward to getting married since I was 12 or something, but I took an active interest together with my wife in the planning of our wedding. It's not my day, it's hers. Frick that. It was our day. We planned it together. Her vision definitely brought it all together and she did a freaking astounding job. But she didn't just make decisions on her own. We talked together about and worked together on every single thing involved in the event. And we were both ecstatic with how it turned out. It turned out beautifully. I try not to toot my own horn very often, but I never thought the best party I'd ever go to would end up being my own. Man who works at daycare are pedophiles. Every year there are people who complain I work there. Jesus, what a load of BS. As if guys can't be nurturers who like children or even just work there because they need the job. That we cannot parent as well as a woman. That we need a random woman to come hold a man's child because they're crying. That we are babysitting when our spouse isn't with our babies. Yeah, that stereotype is so dang dumb. I mean, I changed thousands of diapers and it never bothered me once. I was perfectly capable of dressing my kids. I know how to.
I was expecting to be slower, faster than
hang my kids' school uniforms. I am not looking for a prize, but I am also not looking to be treated like I am an idiot. No, I am not going to a strip club. No, that doesn't mean I'm gay. Edit. It's always my minimum effort comments that get upvoted lol. See also, Hooters. That place freaking sucks, and the last 2 times I was dragged there I had beer spilled on me by the wait staff because they hire based on flirting instead of the ability to actually serve freaking food. Men just wait around for a woman to inform them that they are now dating. I'm not trying to claim that women come up to me in bars especially often, but on the rare times they do, there is a definite
My
sense
god, this
of,
90 has a
I am under
spamming.
no obligation to actually attract you as a mate. I exist and am female, and therefore by default you want to date me. Once, when I tried to politely decline, the woman chastised me in the bar for 5 minutes demanding to know what my excuse was, what reason I could give her. She simply assumed that the default was that I, as a man, want to date any woman, and that I have to justify not being attracted to a specific one. Had a woman approach me in a bar the other night, and about a minute into conversation I'll let her know very matter of fact that I needed to be somewhere so I wasn't hanging around. She just stopped and said, "You don't fancy me?" I said, "Sorry, I've got to go." Crosses my mind now just how confused she looked. That dads are dopey morons barely capable of caring for themselves, let alone their kids. Fun fact, Nimrod originally meant Great Hunter until Bugs Bunny used it to sarcastically describe Elmer Fudd. Edit. Parent comment used to say Nimrods rather than morons. If a woman physically assault a man, he somehow must have done something to deserve it. This gets even worse in those cases where male victims of domestic abuse are getting arrested in case the police gets called, even though they are the victims and not the attacker. I called the cops once on an abusive ex who had threatened to kill herself as a way to manipulate me to stay with her. When they arrived, they treated me like I was a criminal. That men have to be brave and strong all the time. I love being the little spoon in bed with my so. Nothing makes me feel safer and calmer than having her wrap her arms around me and cuddle in. That we can never not be in the mood, and if we are, we must be sick or cheating. Frick, where to start? I was a stay-at-home dad for 2 years. The sheer volume of Karens at parks and playgrounds used to drive me up a wall. They were always dumbfounded when I didn't need their help. Yes, I can change a diaper. Probably faster than you can. Yes, I have snacks. Celery, carrots and a little ranch. Yes, I have drinks. Water bottles and juicer boxes. Yes, I have lunch. Chicken cutlet sandwiches. No, we didn't buy them at the deli. I can actually cook. No, I don't need wine. It's 10 AM. Karen, get a frickin' grip. Edit. Wow. Trying to keep up with the responses is tough. This one definitely touched a nerve. Edit 2. RIP. Inbox. They were coming in so fast, I didn't even see the messages about my being awarded shiny awards. Thanks, fellow Reddit dads. That we would have sex with anything that has a heartbeat. 100% and true. I've had sex with inanimate objects too. And that's how I got banned from Build-A-Bear. Not
Oh
sure
my
if it counts as a
god.
myth, but most TV portrayals, the guy's a dumbass and depends on his wife for literally everything. It's annoying and played out. I don't know anyone close to my age that lives like that. Homer Simpson was always a bit of an idiot, but he also sacrificed everything for his family and worked hard to provide for them. But now they just write him like he's some worthless bum who does nothing and is a burden to everyone around him. If any of the newer Simpsons writers are reading this, frick you. You suck. Men are worse communicators than women. Really depends on the man and the woman. That we are not afraid of walking alone through a dark car park at night, after a great deal of asking everyone from police, to self-defense instructors, to a green beret and a bunch of combat vets, to the most cracked out gun nuts. Not met a single person who had no fear. Because having fear is healthy. If you aren't afraid of anything, you're just a freaking idiot with no real world experience. What distinguishes the people you mentioned is their ability to overcome fear and function decisively when they need to. That men find it normal to cheat and brag about it. Edit. Holy crap. Never expected this many upvotes. Never mind silver and gold. Thanks, kind Redditors. That all black guys are hung, all Asians are small, and all white guys are average. Completely not true. There's a wide spectrum for everyone. Hung Asians, teeny black guys, whatever. Showing emotion is a weakness. It isn't. We have just as many emotions as women, and our emotions are just as valid. I just bottle mine up, then have major breakdowns every 6 months. I don't know if it's healthy, but it's efficient. The only reason men exist is to meet the needs of my family. In the span of 8 months I moved my family to their reservation, bought a car and truck, restored a trailer, rebuilt the motor to my truck, bought my son a motorcycle, plus met everyone my wife and son had, all while working 6 days a week. After 7 months I snapped. My wife said, I had no idea that you felt this tired. In that
My
time
Pokemon
I
are getting
took 1
fucked.
weekend off, then some
My
pro
god.
burned my house down. I going on a full year of not taking personal time because of the rebuild. At one point I was skipping showering for a week at a time because I would just drop without warning. Men have limits too. A family should take care of each other, not a single person taking care of the family. Women of Reddit, when did you first notice that men were looking at you in a sexual way? How old were you and how did it make you feel? When I was 12, a 14-year-old came up to me on the first day of school and said, whilst staring at my chest, "Wow, you UHH." Definitely grew over the summer. I thanked him, thinking he was talking about my height. I walked around all proud for the rest of the day thinking I was getting noticeably taller. I was probably 11 or so. I remember sitting at school in a science class and some guys used to throw pens and other crap on the ground next to me, so, naturally, I would lean down and pick it up for them. It took me a while to understand why they were laughing when I would do that. Turns out, they were stealing glances down my shirt. I just remember the laughing making me feel so uncomfortable. I used to play Dance Dance Revolution a lot when I was 11-12. Good enough to be coordinated at it. I used to think all the guys that would hang out at the arcade were watching me play because I was good or they were waiting their turn. Nope. It's because I developed early and they liked watching my boobs bounce. It was mortifying when I found out a few years later after I befriended one of them. I was 11. I had started to grow my boobs, and my step-grandfather cornered me in my parents' room one day. He stuck his tongue in my mouth and grabbed my boobs. I didn't know what to do, so I pushed him away a little, said, "Abuelito, did you want a hug?" and hugged him. I was scared I was going to get in trouble and that my parents would think I was making it up. They believed me, but just told me to avoid him for the rest of his stay. Around 12 or so, as a 12-year-old, all I wanted was to be grown up. So having grown up meant stare me down felt pretty cool. I thought I was hot, but now looking back it was fricked up. I looked like a child. I developed a little earlier than many of the girls I went to school with. My first experience was actually not with the boys in my class, but with my teammates' fathers looking at me differently and hugging me a little bit too long after I made a nice play. I didn't go to many sleepovers in primary school. Still gives me the heebies. When I was 12, walking into the grocery store with my dad, there was an older guy who kept his eyes glued to my boobs. My dad was ready to punch him if he said anything. I used to walk to the news agency after school most nights, just for something to do really and to get out of the house. By age 14 I started to notice some men in cars would slow a little and stare. Some would smile and wink, etc. I was still in school uniform. I remember I started to get changed before going out after that. Nice big hoodies, etc. I found age 14 an uncomfortable and strange age. My sister-in-law did a similar thing. As soon as she realized she was getting boobs, she wore a hoodie all the time. This wouldn't be that notable except that we live in South FL. She would wear a heavy black hoodie in 95-degree Florida weather. Needless to say, she didn't go outside much. I was about 11 when I started to get wolf whistled waiting for the bus, always by older men and vans, etc. Never teenagers or kids that could have been mistaking me for their own age. It was intimidating and made me feel uncomfortable. I'd tense up whenever a van drove past and feel relief if someone didn't whistle or shout at me. I remember being in high school and an old guy in a convertible pulling up next to me while I was walking
Oh,
from
come
one
on, there's
store
already a
to
charging
another in a
station there.
strip mall. After a simple hi,
Actually, never.
"How are you doing" type
Never mind,
thing,
never
he
mind.
asked me if I wanted a ride to where I was going. I said no thanks, and he drove off. I guess I was
But there was
14 or
one.
15 at the time. The thing is, this is a classic thing that any parent would freak out if it happened to their daughter, but it happened to pretty much everyone I ever mentioned it to in my teenage circle of gals, and we always just laughed it off. We never realized just how disturbing it is at the time. This, 1999 or 2000, I was 12 and my mom was getting me a cell phone. This was before cell phone were as common for kids to have. I came home with my cell phone and got my first call. It was the young guy who set us up with the phone and the plan. He called to tell me that he thought I was hot and that he has my number since he set me up with my phone. I just small talked him, being overly nice as I wasn't really sure what to do. My mom noticed me on the phone and asked who I would even be calling. The phone is basically to call her and only her. I told her that the guy that sold us the phone was trying to get a date with me. She grabbed the phone and yelled into it, "She's 10 years old and you should be ashamed. If you ever call again, I'll go to the police." He got off the phone quickly. I looked at my mom and said, "But I'm 12. He needs to feel the additional shame of being a pig." My mother ended up going to the store and getting the guy fired. Apparently this wasn't the first time he'd used his job to get numbers of women to call. This time he got fired.
No, the
I
attack
was
loss.
14 in a restaurant with my
You
parents,
got half health.
sucking on a lollipop, when some dude approached to let me know that he wished he was the lollipop. I thought my dad might actually murder him. I think my dad would have murdered him. Seriously, what the frick? Didn't notice until high school when the boys in the project group next to me were staring at me, but having a conversation about how nice my boobs must be. I was such a tomboy but had huge knockers that I tried to hide under huge t-shirts and hoodies. I just stared at them looking freaking puzzled. I was 13, and a 20-year-old I knew told me he'd teach me how to give him a BJ. I didn't know what it was. I told my mom, and she told the principal, who made me feel like I was disgusting. All of my friends turned against me saying he never said that to me, and I was alone for a while until I moved. Another man, the son of the town judge, propositioned me from his truck. I was 14. When I was 15, my sister's boyfriend groped me in front of my sister and boyfriend. It wasn't a fun puberty. Around age 11, myself and my cousin, she was also 11, were walking from the beach to the cottage, in shorts and t-shirts. A car with 3 men began driving slowly next to us, asking for directions and for us to get in to show them where some campground was. We went into a convenience store and used their phone to call our grandmother to come get us. Pre-cell phones. The men were parked in the parking lot and followed our car to the cottage, which was set back from the road, had to go through trees and such to get to it. They parked out on the road by the entrance. My uncle, cousin's father, was told they were parked there and went out with his shotgun to ask if there was any problems. They didn't stick around. From that point on I became more aware of the yelling out car windows, the stares, the requests to get into vehicles. Seriously, guys, does this ever work? 11 or 12. I remember walking to and from school and having guys yell stuff out of cars. A couple times I had to hide out in a local coffee shop on the route home because I was getting harassed. Once because a car full of maybe late teens early 20s dudes kept circling the block and asking me to ride with them, and once because some older dude was walking the same way and kept talking about my boobs and ass. I was 12 and had no idea how to deal with this, so I started wearing baggy boy clothes. It lessened but didn't stop. I spent years working through my issues over this. When I was 12, my mom and I were at a small, carry-out only restaurant waiting for our order to be ready. This older guy, who looked like he was about 20, came in. He just stared at me, open-mouthed. I had to walk past him to fill my drink, and he said, "Hey baby, give me some of that T&A." I didn't even know what T&A was. He even positioned himself so I would have to walk past him again when we left the restaurant, and he made another comment where he called me princess. Anyway, when we got in the car, I just broke down crying. I was so ashamed. My mom had no idea that any of that had just occurred, and I told her that I didn't know what I had done wrong. I thought for sure I must have looked him at or done something to make him think that it was okay to talk and look at me like that. My mom assured me that it was nothing that I had done, and that now that I was developing, things like that were going to happen a lot more frequently. If I had been older, the whole incident would have been fairly innocuous. But I was only 12, and I definitely looked very young even though I had boobs and hips, so it was mildly traumatizing. What I find so disturbing now that I'm an adult is how frequently older, grown men would look and make sexual comments at me from the ages of 12-17. Like I said before, I looked very young, and I didn't dress provocatively. There's no way they could have mistaken me for 18 plus. When I was about 10 years old, I developed breasts but hadn't really noticed yet. I was wearing a shirt with no bra when a boy in my class kept passing my desk over
All
and
these damn
over again.
trainers.
About
They
the
just
5th
lined up to
time,
jump me.
I looked up at him to see what was going on, and he was staring right down the V-neck of my top. That was the moment my entire dang life changed. I was 15 and on a family holiday in Florida. I was wearing a skirt and this guy who drove past us in a white pickup truck drove slowly past, gawking at my legs. To add to the embarrassment I felt, he kept sticking his head out of the window to keep looking. Once he had passed me, I saw it. My dad saw it. It made me cringe and regret wearing the skirt. I was 14. It made me feel scared, dirty and ashamed of my body. I was cornered at a football game by a group of older teens and adult men. They groped my friend who was more developed than I was. At first they just catcalled us and we ignored it. Then they started calling us frigid because we were ignoring them. Then they moved in and it escalated until an older gentleman
They ain't do
broke it
shit.
up.
Oh my.
That was the day I learned that some men expect something from you just because you're female. That type of guy doesn't even see you as a person. It was one of the more upsetting lessons I've ever learned. I was about 10. I was terrified. Who the frick cat calls follows a 10-year-old? I'm more than sure my Lion King backpack and light up shoes were an indicator I wasn't of age. You're so pretty I just want to talk to you. While walking home from the bus stop. Terrifying. I was 8, had wandered away from my mom at Kmart. A creepy 40-something white guy in construction attire stared at my chest and butt, and followed me all around the store. I even went into the changing room to get away from him. Stupid idea, I know, but come on. I was 8, he followed me into the changing room. Tried to pull and shake the locked store door open that I was hiding behind. I sat, curled into a ball on the changing seat, staring at his dirty work boots just on the other side of that door, terrified. Thank God a woman walked in to try on some clothes, saw him, and screamed at him to get out. After he had left, I ran out and found my mom. I will never forget how frightened I was. I had no idea what he wanted with me, but the way he stared and his aggression trying to pull that changing room door open made me feel so sick and ashamed of my body, and I wondered what I had done to make him come after me. I'm not positive about my age. I think I was around 12 or 13. I was at a pool party and all the boys, some of whom were a few years older than me, kept commenting on my suit. I was the only one at the party in a string bikini, so I guess it was noticeable. At first, I was embarrassed because I was unsure how to respond. Should I be combative? Friendly? Should I be complimenting them as well? I didn't feel uncomfortable. Exactly. Just unsure of the best way to react. I think part of me was flattered as well. I had always been a bit more on the awkward side, so being noticed by cute older
Fuck.
boys was new and exciting. There were many instances after this where I did feel
So,
bad or uncomfortable
Celio's
about
gonna
being
die.
noticed by the opposite gender. But as far as first experience go, it
Hopefully
really
I can just.
sparked my curiosity more than anything else. I remember asking myself what I had done to warrant such attention and wondering if it was something that I should be hoping to accomplish again. I was 13, and I remember my friend and I would count how many men, adult men, beeped or yelled things as we walked. It felt embarrassing. It made me feel like I was under a microscope, and I became so aware of how I looked and held myself. It was like I was, not a human, but something that exists for the pleasure of men. Of course I didn't think about it quite as in depth when I was 13, but looking back I can see why I felt embarrassed and self-conscious. Even when I was a kid there was a huge distinction between my emotions when a boy talked to me and reciprocal flirting, and that one-sided interaction where you're passive and there's this guy yelling that you're hot. Some people might like it and I don't judge them for that, but I'd like that whole catcalling thing to stop. I find it really freaking sad that most of our stories, including mine, all happen around 13 or 14, and the harassment is usually by older men. What the frick is wrong with the world? Probably around 12. I have a sister very close in age to me as well, so lots of threesome suggestions from dudes driving by. I developed fairly early, much to the dismay of my super crazy religious mother and grandmother. Suddenly, when we went out in public, my mother would always walk between me and other people. She'd get furious with me if she overheard anything that could be construed as a remark about my looks. If someone did look at me, she'd make snide remarks about how trampy my clothes were, that she had freaking bought me, no less, and how it was my fault for wearing revealing clothes, t-shirts and shorts, most of the time. Rather than making me feel like I should be offended, instead, she made me feel like I was disgusting. I spent a very long time thinking that I wasn't attractive, and that the only reason anyone would ever want me is for intercourse. I still have a few issues with this, but for the most part I'm okay now. So, in closing, parents, your little girls are going to grow up. Please guide them on how to dress according to their personal morals and values, but don't teach them that their bodies are something to be ashamed of. I was on vacation with my parents when I was 14 and we were mini golfing. I was wearing a shortish skirt, and there was a group of boys who had to be my age playing behind us. My dad was acting really weird the entire time, and when we got back to our car, he informed me that they were checking out my ass the entire time and it took every bone in his body not to flip out at them. I was mortified. I'm pretty sure I was around 7 or 8 when I and a friend of mine were walking back from the waterfront to her house, about 2 blocks away and in bathing suits. When we started walking we noticed a car behind us with tinted windows was driving very slowly, so we decided to walk around the block and try to confuse the driver, but he continued to follow us. We walked up and down streets and we ended up about 10 blocks away from her house with this car following us very slowly when I decided to call the cops. I feel extremely lucky that I had just gotten a cell phone because we asked the cop to come undercover so the driver wouldn't speed off and they played along. A few minutes later, we had stopped on the porch of some random person's house and the driver pulled over across the road and waited. Another car comes down the street and pulls over. A man rolled down the window and showed us his police badge and asked if we were okay. Suddenly 2 other cop cars came down the street on opposite sides and the driver tried to run out of his car and behind the house, but the cops caught him. He was recently released from jail on kidnapping and possession of child pornography charges. I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite as terrifying as that. When I was 13 and about 5'7", I waited for my dad to pick me up at a downtown movie theater after a matinee. There was apparently a dive bar right beside the theater, where some scumbags were getting their daytime drink on. One by one 6'8" men came out to smoke around me. They started making soft whistling noises and grunts of appreciation. One guy said to each of the men and turned loudly, "You see that ass? Mamacita, eh? Mamacita," and luckily my dad turned the corner before they got closer. Women of Reddit, what are some things you've been dying to tell men? Small things make me really happy. A cute written sticky note of flowers on a random day. It makes me so incredibly happy. I'm single. I hope, for your sake, this is a throwaway account. I can just imagine what that inbox looks like right now. Wash your junk before BJ. If it's a random butt back road BJ that I had zero opportunity to prepare for, I'm sorry. Just because other women like it doesn't mean all women do. The worst thing is when you tell a guy you don't enjoy something and he responds, all of the other women either liked it or came to like it. Those acrobatics and PR special positions, they're camera angles. What if I bring in a stunt double though? Some men need to be told to brush their teeth. I've known several who don't bother. One of my male friends in particular, when I asked him why he doesn't brush his very rotten teeth, answered that unwashed breath contains pheromones that attract women. It hasn't worked for him yet though. I knew a married man who wouldn't brush. His wife basically refused to kiss him until he did. Still would go a week without it. They got divorced. Big shocker.
That's disgusting.
When I see a guy with great hair or shoes or outfit or something, I would like to compliment them, but I'm afraid they'll think I'm trying to hit on them. Guys really do not receive compliments often. I can't tell you the last time someone said I looked nice even when I made an effort. Jackhammering your dong into me like you're trying to plunge a toilet is not doing anything for me. You gotta get some contact with the clit, add in like a little upwards scoop at the end or something so you're hitting it. Please just take a shower. My husband often goes 4 days without taking a shower and I have tried to be sensitive to his feelings and remind him gently to bathe, but it doesn't work. I love him, but who wants to be intimate or close to someone who doesn't clean themselves? Tell him he freaking stinks. He doesn't think he does, cause he doesn't smell himself. It's annoying as heck if someone doesn't tell you. It won't hurt our feelings to be told we smell bad and need to shower. Stop rubbing my clit so hard. It's not a magic orgasm button you can mash on. Smash that clit button and don't forget to subscribe. Being romantic and sweet isn't always roses and nice dinners. Get me some gummy bears and put my favorite movie on. Buy me the dumb keychain you saw at Dollar Tree that made you think of me. Offer to rub my feet. You can be romantic without having to spend a bunch or do something crazy. Yeah dude, seriously, it means more that you were grabbing coffee on the way home and picked one up how I like it than an expensive gift I've never seen before. Know me, don't buy me. Clean your freaking bathroom. It's up higher. It at least takes me 30 minutes to find the clit on the butthole. My nipples are freaking sensitive. They are not happy little toys for the pinching. Oh, or when they squeeze your boobs like they're trying to tear them off. That freaking hurts and distracts me from actually enjoying the rest. So stop. I'm sorry if I'm staring at your bulge. What bulge? I'm very sorry that I'm indecisive about what we get for dinner. I'm not fricking you if you don't make a sound during intercourse. Seriously, you're not any less manly if you at least breathe when I'm giving you a BJ or something. Nah, frick that. BJs feel way better while you're dying from a lack of oxygen. Forearms. They're awesome. Please keep having them. Well crap, you should have said something earlier. If I had known, I wouldn't have gotten rid of them. Seriously, it's the little things that count. Most of us don't need shopping sprees and lavish dinners and vacations. Just show us you give a crap. You guys make us more complicated than we are. I wish men would drop the 50 Shades of Grey. Command a woman to do something. She loves that. BS. I went on a date recently where the guy asked if he could pick out my first outfit, then asked me to cancel plans because I would have more fun with him, and would text me randomly to tell me take a selfie. It's a command, not a request. Like, no, I'm an adult woman and completely capable of picking out my own outfit.
Sunsport is kind of
Made
useless,
plans
so
with
I'm
me
just
and
gonna get
now
rid of
want to
it.
see me. And who the frick is like, oh yes sir, here's the picture you commanded. I know women say we like confidence, but confidence is not controlling another person. Can you just treat me as a person and not an object to control? I've recently had a string of men pull the come over late at night and get mad when I tell them I'm busy with friends going to bed. It's so selfish and annoying. I can't be summoned the moment you want to see me. I'd like to correct the mistaken idea that I sometimes see men express here and in other places, that when a woman rejects you, it's because she thinks you aren't good enough. I've seen men say things justify that they are good enough for their dates by pointing out all the things they have, such as a job, the ability to wash, money, property, hobbies etc. And that because of those things they can't understand why particular women won't date them and sometimes get very frustrated or angry about that. They completely overlook the fact that women are not looking for a particular set of characteristics alone. They might have a list of things they would like a partner to have, such as a job, but that doesn't mean they are automatically open to dating every man they meet who meets the things on that list. Other things are important, such as compatibility, attraction, a shared sense of purpose, shared life goals, similar lifestyle, right place right time and many other things. So when a woman rejects you, she isn't trying to tell you that you aren't good enough for her, it's that you aren't right for her. So try not to take rejection as the rejection of you as a person and everything that you have to offer. It's about you and her not being compatible, not your worth as a man or as a potential date for other women. That some girls are just genuinely nice, it doesn't mean we're flirting with you or are trying to get with you. This is where I have problems because I primarily interpret it as girls just being nice, and I learn later through the grapevine that I'm an idiot for not picking up on signals that they were interested. We enjoy intercourse even if we don't have an orgasm. It's super important to my fiance that I do every time that he makes sure I do during foreplay at least once. On the rare times we skipped foreplay and he came quicker than expected, he felt so disappointed in himself. It was so hard to get him to understand. I still enjoyed it immensely. I enjoy how it feels and the intimacy, the closeness afterwards. So men, if you didn't get her off, but she is still smiling happily in your arms, then she still enjoyed it. So relax and don't worry. 1. When a woman says she likes confidence, it doesn't mean she likes a conceited butthole. It means she likes a man she doesn't have to constantly reassure. We want to compliment you, not convince you. We want to be with someone who isn't constantly terrified that we're cheating and acting out of jealousy and paranoia as a result. We want to be with someone who cannot be the best at something and be okay with it. 2. Longer intercourse isn't better intercourse. Focus on the quality, not the amount of time. I'd way rather have 5 minutes of wild, animalistic fricking than an hour of slow, lukewarm thrusting. It feels great to put your dong in something for an hour, I'm sure. It does not feel great to have something repeatedly pounded into you for an hour. 3. Don't be selfish with anal. Some women like it, because every woman is different, but if your woman doesn't like it, don't keep pressing the subject. We have a literal frick hole specifically for your dong. Don't try to guilt pressure us into letting you rail our buttholes because that doesn't satisfy you. For a lot of women, it hurts a lot. You giving your finger a courtesy spit and awkwardly poking it in there a couple times before trying to put your dong in doesn't win you the sensitive, caring, receptive partner points you think it does, either. Sometimes when we fart the air bubble goes forward instead of backwards and vibrates the labia as it passes through. It feels kinda nice. That fingering for 2.5 seconds and maybe squeezing a boob isn't, and will never be foreplay, and then get upset as to why I'm always dry when you try and insert yourself. Dude, even talking about it makes me drier than the Sahara. There's books, videos, online tutorials. For frick's sake, literally, you have to put more effort in. Your Tinder profile is for you to impress women, not men. The big fish, motorcycles, and pretty women by your side are not appealing. No dong pics for God's sake, and never unsolicited. Why would that ever be a good idea? If a woman gives you oral regularly, maybe reciprocate at least half the time, and you don't have to do it until they climax. Just entertainment for a couple minutes. It's not like we demand it every time. Please put in the effort. Women, in general, groom themselves, keep clean and make an effort to be attractive. If I'm shaving, having a shower and taking time to do my hair and makeup for a date, it's not unreasonable to ask you for an equal amount of effort. Or at least a shower and a clean shirt. Show us you're worth our time. Noted. I'll show up to our date wearing makeup.
At what cost? The
Can't
monk didn't
promise
even
it will be
die.
good, but I'm willing to make the effort. When
Could
you
have been
decide to
more.
last longer by thinking about something else and getting soft for a while, it's boring as heck. There are a lots of dos and don'ts here, so what have I been dying to tell men? I love it when you guys smell good. Chances are you taste good too. I love witty
Serial
banter without point
doubts.
scoring. Healthy intellect is hot. I'll try to find a conversation that really engages you so I can see your best self. I meet men all the time, of all ages and backgrounds and walks of life. I don't always like them all. I can be friends with most. Best of all, I love watching a man get dressed, either for work or whatever, all clean and pressed and smartly attired. Love that. Clitoral stimulation is 100 times better than regular oral penetration. Regular intercourse is fine, but 3 out of 4 women aren't getting off from it. Please do not ignore the clitoris. Do both at the same time. Hitting the spot with one hand while gently getting the clit. Mouth hand takes practice, but you can do it. Also, if the lady is on top and you use a hand, or better yet are comfortable with a small vibrator type device, you'll be tossing the sheets in the washer in 15 minutes. I know you're carrying pain and sadness. I'm sorry you feel lonely. I wish society didn't tell you to man up all the time. That must be so hard. We are not here to replace your mothers, so don't expect us to run around and do all your washing cooking for you. Spend more time just kissing and teasing before going down on me. Don't finger me like a jackhammer. I don't care what you've seen in P. Every girl is different. Don't confuse confidence and arrogance. Also, don't be afraid to cry. It's not unmanly. You're entitled to all of your feelings. Cooking, cleaning and taking care of your home and yourself is not a woman thing. Literally anybody can do it. My friend's mom broke her leg and he was sad because she couldn't stand long enough to cook dinner, so he was eating out every night. Like, just learn how to do things for yourself. Women aren't naturally better in the kitchen. I didn't learn how to cook until I moved out my parents' house, and it was really bad at first, but I got better eventually. And laundry isn't even hard. I have a 40-year-old male co-worker who goes to his 74-years-old mom's house so she can do his laundry while he watches football. Some of my male friends legit live in filth because they wait for their mom's sister's girlfriends to clean. The crap is gross. Women of Reddit, what can men do or say that instantly makes you lose interest in them? Your boobs could be bigger. I was at this party, being social, playing beer pong. This guy, Travis, comes up to me and starts talking. We hit it off, decide to talk outside and share a few beers. Then his friend comes up and asks me if I'd like to play another round of beer pong. I said, sure, I'll see you there. Travis looks to me and says in baby voice, you're mine. I saw how he looked at you. Don't leave me. Gag, possessiveness and baby voice are both scary and off-putting. Say for example, we're on a date. Please, put your phone away. If it's work related, I'll be understanding. But check